So this is our sweet girl Liza and our beautiful Diane, who is the queen of the entire barn. And we're doing a video, and it's taken months to do for a lot of reasons. But the main reason was this is going to be a very difficult video to do. We're going to talk about Julia Pig. I think one of the things that kind of made Julia different than most of the pigs was just her really sweet disposition. She never did anything that showed any aggression towards humans, ever. And she had every right to be aggressive, but she wasn't. And instead, she was just really loving and seemed almost appreciative, because you would call her name and she'd be like, ah, and come to you talking the whole time. Julia was one of the best examples of an amazing, loving, just an incredible pig. We rescued Julia in 2012 when we got a call from state troopers who were going to remove a pig from a gestation facility, which never ever happens. But it was all based on an audio tape that an employee at the farm had taken. Julia, who was a gestation sow, she's being moved from what's called a gestation crate. So that's the crate where they are impregnated. So they're all artificially inseminated a week or 2 weeks before they're going to deliver their babies. They move them into what's called the farrowing house, and that's where they can actually nurse their babies. Because she didn't want to move, and I'm sure she didn't want to move because she knew what the outcome of that would be. During that time period, she actually fought. She didn't fight, she just didn't move. And the audio tape basically you can hear that this is a living being, even though she's clearly making sounds and clearly in pain and fear. There's no way that you could deny it, but she was still being treated just like an object. And at the end, they drug her by her ears a very long way from going from one barn to the other, down a hall, and threw her in the crate. She was in shock, so she was very pale. They had actually jammed the electric prod on her and just held it on her. And then there were red marks from them just pulling it across her over and over again. We took her to the Melrose Hospital, and it was the first time she'd clearly had bedding, so she made a big nest. Her eyes looked different already. They were starting to look a little bit, calmer. You're okay, baby. By the end of the night, she had had 17 babies, which was pretty awesome. And the whole time that she was giving birth, she was overheating, and they needed to stay warm. So we had to give her fluids, and we were keeping her really cool. And we would give her back the babies, and we just kept moving the babies back and forth. We formed a bond with her, and she wasn't scared of us.
You gonna do it?
And she did some really cool things. We made a big mud hole for her, and she just would lay there and just get hotter and hotter and hotter. And I think it was because the babies were too small. And so one day, all of a sudden, she just marched down, got in the mud, and so did all the babies. What we also found out was she was a fantastic mother. She's probably the best mother I've ever seen. And if you see the size of these mother pigs, and they have these 2-pound piglets, and they have their face right in her mouth, and she flops over and lets them nurse, and all those things that you're told about why they have to be crated and why they're treated the way they're treated and how dangerous they are, and they're not going to hurt the babies. They will hurt the people that are trying to take the babies, but she would never have ever hurt one of her babies, and she never did. all of a sudden she got very, very sick, and it was during a snowstorm. The roads were closed to Ithaca, and the roads going to Ithaca are the roads going to Cornell, so we couldn't get through the night that she got sick. That next morning we rushed her to Cornell, and when they opened her up, her spleen basically disintegrated. And so this year we ended up, she started getting sick again, and we knew that it was the same thing, so we immediately brought her in. And I just remember, because we tried, like you have all this hope all the time when you take somebody in and you're like, there's no way that this is going to be the end of it over something so stupid that happened years ago. And so we all just assumed she'd come home, and this time she didn't. The most beautiful thing about sanctuaries is we have all these families, and families that get to stay together. We really put so much energy into making sure that like everybody was where they needed to be, and they would be happy, and she was happy. And unfortunately, you know, she came from a place where she wasn't treated like Julia. She was treated like an object, and because of that, you know, she didn't live the whole time. I think she was 8, you know, when she died. And so there's like this legacy that she left. She has children here. Her kids are very much like her. They're gentle, and they're kind, and they're good with people. And it's important to us because they are a part of her. These are animals that have so much feeling and so much love and so much fear and so much everything that we have. The difference between Julia and every other pig that was still in that facility is Julia got out. You know, Julia's special because we got a chance to be with her. She was just so amazing. And the biggest difference is we got to know her.